Welcome back, or welcome to another live episode of Don't Talk TV. It's been a few months since we've had a live because of a mixture of Christmas vacation, me being sick, me being busy, but it's the beginning of March, first Thursday of March, and we're back with a live. I've got a couple things to cover, a couple interesting things. Order in council that recently came out that will be bringing yellow flag laws from Bill C-21 into effect starting tomorrow. And then we'll talk about a couple individuals who seem to be getting a little bit overly excited about the prospect of becoming the 51st state, and why I think that what they're saying is nothing to concern yourself with, or nothing to think that we're imminently going to be part of the United States. And of course, as always, we'll be taking your questions. Please give us questions so I'm not just talking to myself all evening. Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. So I mentioned the three topics that we talked about. I want to talk about this yellow flag law being brought in right off the hop. I gave Richard the link to the episode. Richard, if you could put it in the chat. I talked about Bill C-21 way back at the beginning of Don't Talk TV. I think it was around episode 10 or somewhere around there. Unfortunately, that law did receive royal assent back in late 2023, and it was to be implemented in stages. And one of those stages is going to be implemented tomorrow, that being the so-called yellow flag laws. So let's just take a quick look here. I'm screen sharing the order in council. This was issued on February 25th. And Richard will be putting the link to this in the show description so you can look up for yourself. But as you can see, what they're doing is the reference an act to amend certain acts and to make certain consequential amendments, brackets, firearms. That's C-21. That's the official name of that act. And what's happening here is on March the 7th. That's the day in which sections 34, 35 sub 2 and 38 sub 1 come into force. So let's have a quick look just to refresh ourselves, because it's been a long time since I've done that episode. Have a look at what those sections are. So I've got the PDF of C-21 open. Again, link will be in the show description, and it'll be in the chat in a second here. Just to look at what sections are coming to force. So when it's referencing 34, that's 34 of C-21. It's a bit confusing to read this, because then you're seeing, oh, well, what's 68 sub 1, 69 sub 1? Well, this is here sections of the Firearms Act that are being amended. So section 34 of C-21 amends, or it adds after section 69, this 69.1 sub 1. So that's saying that if a chief firearms officer has reasonable grounds to suspect, on the basis of information that they've collected or received from any person, including a psychologist, psychiatrist, or nurse practitioner, medical practitioner, that the holder of a license is no longer eligible to hold a license, the holder's authorization can be suspended for up to 30 days. Now, that's really important to pay attention to that, because I guarantee you go to your family physician and you say, oh, I'm feeling depressed. If they know you have firearms, they'll be letting them know. I have seen so many cases in my career as a criminal defense lawyer where I've seen physicians reporting their clients to the police. So, I guess physicians have no choice. We've seen during COVID how tough the College of Physicians and Surgeons can be on its members if they don't do what they're told to. But, how do you have a proper physician-patient relationship? But personally, I would never tell, well, just keep that in mind. I wouldn't ever tell, because I wouldn't take antidepressant drugs anyway. I think they're really bad for you. So, and there's better ways to deal with depression. So if I don't have an issue with depression, but if I did, I sure wouldn't tell my family physician about that. So that's that. You can get suspended if anyone contacts them saying that they think you're depressed or you have some issues, some mental health issues. So then we've got 35 sub 1. Revocation of a license. Chief Firearms Officer may revoke a license for any good and sufficient reason, including and without limiting the generality of the foregoing. There's a few other ones, but now they're where the holder uses, acquire, imports a firearm while their authorizations to do so are suspended. So they're adding things. Sorry, that's 30. That's 35 sub 2. That's getting added in there, and then 38 sub 1 is also coming into effect. So if we just scroll down here, 38 sub 1. Every license that is the subject of suspension, so every prohibition order, variation. So those are a little bit more, a little bit more esoteric. But the big one is the first one, 34. That's the beginning of those yellow flag laws. Now, there's some worse stuff in C21, as I covered. Recommend you have a look at the episode. But there's supposed to be a big announcement tomorrow. I saw the CCFR mentioning that. I think this is probably what they're going to be announcing. Now, I can't take credit for finding this on my own. The gunblog.ca, they're the ones who were paying close attention to these orders in council and saw this. So credit to them. That's where I heard about it. But I wanted to share it with my viewers and show you the actual section so you can see exactly what's going to be going into effect tomorrow. So before I move into the other sections about Canada becoming or not becoming the 51st state, I forgot to mention that I've got my mug with me, and these are for sale. Now, we've actually sold a couple of mugs. I want to get that person's permission before mentioning their name live on air, but they know who they are, so thank you for buying and supporting the show that way. I mean, to me, it's not that we're making a profit off these. We're selling them for cost. It's just, getting the logo out there, getting the word out. And in that regard, a big thanks goes out to Maxime Bernier and Greg Wycliffe, who we've had on the show. And they both very kindly posted pictures of them with their mugs on their social media. So I want to thank them for that. Oh, and I see that Richard was able to get a hold of Bill Davies. Was our first viewer of Don't Talk TV who bought a Don't Talk TV mug. So Bill, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for buying a mug. Now, great question here from a YouTube user. How easy is it for a new prime minister to throw out previous prime minister's orders in council? Couldn't be simpler. Like the stroke of a pen, literally. That's all it would take to undo previous orders in council. So I have some hope that if, a few months ago I would have been saying when. Now I'm saying if Pierre Poilievre is the next Prime Minister of Canada, then I have some hope that he will counteract some of these orders in council. I think the sweeping firearms bans, where hundreds and hundreds of lawfully owned firearms have been banned by order in council, I think he'll probably undo those. These C21 stuff, these ones would be a bit harder to undo. It's very odd that they're bringing these sections into effect to order in council, but C21 is law. It received royal assent, so it's not like they're creating law using order in council. They're just using order in council to specify when certain sections come into effect. So I don't see the Conservatives undoing that. They'd have to completely undo C21, and that has to be done through the proper parliamentary process. But things like firearms bans couldn't be simpler. Pierre Poilievre could do that his first day in office. I mean, technically, it's the Governor General who would be doing it, because as you saw with the order in council that I was sharing earlier, it's technically the Governor General that's issuing the order in council. So it's Her Excellency, the Governor in council. But we all know that the Governor General, they only issue these on the quote recommendation unquote, i.e. the order. I mean, they don't say no to the Prime Minister's recommendations. So for all intents and purposes, it's the Prime Minister who's implementing these. So great question. Thanks for posting that. And I just quick thank you to Jet Set. Thank you for joining us, and for the hello, and kudos on a fantastic avatar or whatever they call that. Sorry, I'm old. I forget I don't know what the current lingo is for these things, but as I talked about in a recent episode, I mean, that's our real flag. To me, that's the true Canada flag right there. That's our heritage right there. So quick question before we go into the stuff with Canada becoming the 51st state. If someone's charged with willful promotion of anti-Semitism for downplaying the Holocaust, what happens if they don't show up to court? Good question. The exact same thing would happen if you didn't show up to court for any other charge. A warrant for your arrest would be issued, and when the police execute that warrant, they would then charge you with failure to attend court, and then you could be in a whole bunch of other trouble. And then if you didn't show up again, they'd issue another warrant, and eventually they'd just deny your bail. They'd hold you in custody, saying this person's not showing up to court. We're going to hold them in jail to make them show up to court. So regardless of what you're charged with, failing or refusing to attend court is certainly not a way to try to deal with that. It's just going to make things worse. And it's no different for a charge of quote unquote anti-Semitism as for utter threats or murder or shoplifting. It's all the same. You're ordered to attend court. If you don't attend court, the police will arrest you and make you come to court. And I really do not recommend picking up failure to attend court charges, because you'll almost certainly end up with a criminal record. I mean, unless you have a valid explanation why you didn't attend court, like you were legitimately, had been in a terrible car accident, you're in the hospital and you physically couldn't come to court. But if you don't have a lawful excuse, you could end up with a criminal record. And then even if you're acquitted of the original charge, or even if the original charge is withdrawn or dropped or judicially stayed by the court, you would still be saddled with that criminal record for failure to attend court. And in some places, like here in Stratford, the local justice, it's almost guaranteed 30 days jail for a failure to attend court. So a good question. Always attend court. And I recommend you hire a lawyer to represent you, because specifically with charges like that, those hate crime, all the hate crime charges and anti-Semitism charges I followed in the news, many of these individuals have attempted to represent themselves, but it's a very complex area of the law, and a new area of the law. And they've either hired lawyers who are from outside appearances. I mean, I don't know, maybe this is a rash judgment, but lawyers who appear like they may be in very strong disagreement with a person who said the things that are alleged to be anti-Semitism. Or they went self-represented. Although a lot of these individuals, inexplicably, to me, just plead guilty without even testing the law. Where, I mean, from the news reports, it seems like maybe they would have had they might have had an argument. But if you have no money to hire a lawyer, what should you do? Well, I guess there's no money and there's no money. You can apply for legal aid depending on your province. Different provinces have different thresholds for legal aid. I know Ontario is going to be significantly increasing their thresholds. I don't have those numbers at the tip of my fingers. If Richard, if you're able to maybe take a look, because I'm sure legal aid's released a press release saying what their new eligibility numbers will be. And you can also get special consideration from legal aid. And especially on a case like that, I would really push for it and ask Duty Council to get special consideration, because there can be special consideration given to an individual for an area that deals with a novel area of the law, and that could have precedential value. And then if you normally wouldn't qualify, you could qualify. I mean, if you plead not guilty and represent yourself, do the best you can. I mean, I guess if you can't get legal aid and you like really legitimately can't afford a lawyer, then I guess you have to do the best you can. But I honestly think you'd be in tough on a case like that trying to defend yourself, because I mean it's a total mismatch of power, right? And the crown attorneys are professionals; they do this for a living. You want a professional in your corner. Worth at least talking to a lawyer. A lot of lawyers, such as myself, offer a free half-hour consultation to maybe at least get a few pointers. And I might start doing a few videos on a few things. I do have some on the court process, give you some pointers on how to go through the court process, but you're never going to be able to learn from YouTube University how to properly defend yourself. The law is much more an art than a science, and in my view, you really need someone with experience to represent you in that. So that said, there's some individuals that are a little bit overly enthusiastic. So let's do my favorite one first. Richard, if you could put up the esteemed legal scholar in common law who says that Canada's been secretly made part of the United States without our knowledge. Okay, I thought you had that already open on another screen so we could get that rolling right away, but there we go.
Everybody, Sydney here. I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on. I know that a lot of you have been following me for a while, especially under the trust and estate administration sides of the world, especially if you're in Canada and the United States, and why I've been moving everybody into a common law organizational trust and trying to protect you and shelter you from the situation that is actually playing out in the general public as we speak. And it's because there's a really big secret that the Canadian citizens, as well as the Americans, are not actually being exposed to or being told. And I'm going to expose to you right now why Mark Carney is actually in Canada. So it actually has to do with Canada being liquidated. Canada is in probate at the moment, which means that the Trust and Estate Administration, he's been appointed as executor on behalf of the Crown to basically liquidate and probate the estate.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to stop there because, I mean, this is his general thesis that Canada has somehow been sold. I don't know how it's an estate or like probate court. He's talking about wills and estates law as if like somewhat like as if, I don't know, when is he trying to say when Queen Elizabeth II died, Canada was part of her estate? But that was years ago. I mean, this all just comes back to this stuff about Canada being a corporation. I assure you, Canada is a country, not a corporation. I covered that in episode 108, so please have a watch of episode 108 to get more details on that. But bottom line, Canada's a country. It doesn't get probate, and even corporations don't get sold like that. Corporations don't go to probate court. I mean, many people, I'm sure you've seen corporate takeovers. There's like public notification of purchase. Their shares are sold and purchased. So even if Canada was a corporation, I mean, I'm not a corporate lawyer, but just based on my general knowledge as someone who's lived in society, and I'm sure others have seen this, that's not how corporations get sold. But Canada isn't a corporation. And when in history have you ever seen a country secretly sold to another country? It's never happened. Now, I'm sure when months from now, Canada is still not the 51st state, this gentleman will probably claim that we're secretly the 51st state and just no one's telling us. But try crossing the border. If you still need to use your passport and your money is still worthless compared to the money that they're using in the United States, we're still a separate country. I mean, the countries don't get secretly handed over like that. Or, I mean, if it is secret and absolutely nothing changes, does it even matter? Which is one of my answers with, even if I'm wrong about the whole corporation thing, it doesn't matter in your day-to-day life, because guess what? The corporation that calls itself a country, if that's what you think, still has the police with the guns, still has the courts that you have to go to. Otherwise, you're going to go to jail, and you will attend court when they require you to. So in practice, it makes no difference. The reality on the ground is what it is, and that's what you have to deal with. So then a little bit less ridiculously, but we've got another one. There's a lawyer, one of my brother lawyers in Alberta, is undertaking to negotiate Alberta being made the 51st state. So let's have a quick look at that. I actually talked to him on Fox News.
I say Canada should be our 51st state.
All right, move over, Greenland. President Trump has been calling to make Canada the 51st state, and a group in Alberta is apparently on board. Jeffrey Rath is leading that group, a lawyer from Alberta. He has that delegation behind him. Jeff, how big is your delegation? Tell me the feeling you are for joining America.
Hundreds of Albertans that are reaching out and volunteering to join our delegation. Right now, our group is very small. It's a steering committee of people that are looking to come to Washington on an exploratory basis and meet with a representative appointed by President Trump to explore the benefits of either Alberta becoming an independent sovereign nation with economic union to the United States, becoming a U.S. territory, or pursuing full statehood.
Well, those
are our goals.
God, how has Canada lost their way? How has Canada lost their way that makes you think you got to join us?
Trudeau and
So, I mean, I'm just going to stop where he's going off on how Canada's lost its way. May well agree with some of that. I think the issue here is, I mean, this man is backed by his own admission by, quote, hundreds, unquote, of Canadians or of Albertans. This is a man with no authority to negotiate anything. He's not a member of the government. He's not a member of the United Conservative Party. I looked up. He's part of some kind of Alberta separatist group. It's very difficult to tell how serious or how big that group is. But the bottom line is he's not a member of the government, so he has no authority to negotiate anything. So again, I don't think people should be getting too excited. Now, Alberta, probably, from speaking to people I know, and actually I spoke to another lawyer that I know from Alberta to see if he knew this individual. He knows him a little bit and didn't really have much to say about him. Certainly didn't say he's some powerhouse and someone who's got a whole bunch of authority to hand over Alberta to the United States, much less make it an independent state. I mean, if you look at the last Alberta election, I mean, the Separatist Party, I forget the name of the Alberta Separatist Party, but they didn't win any seats in the provincial elections. So although there may be some appetite, certainly not the majority of Albertans are wanting to separate. Now, maybe that's going to change over time. Maybe the desire for secession will increase as time goes on. Although, as I looked at in episode 235, where I looked at the law, I mean, in either of these, any scenario, it's going to be extremely difficult for Canada to ever become a part of the United States, barring an armed invasion by the United States, which I don't see happening. I mean, I've had some people message me thinking that that's going to happen or that it could happen soon. I mean, at this stage of my life, I'm not going to rule anything out. I mean, it's possible that aliens all of a sudden teleport into my office and abduct me. But I mean, and certainly after COVID, we saw a lot of crazy stuff. So anything's possible. But I think it's unlikely that I think it's highly unlikely that the United States would invade Canada. Although I mean, practically it would be very easy for them to, and they could probably conquer Canada in a matter of days. But I mean, especially even though it's a massive country, when you consider that over 90% of our population lives within a few kilometers, within 100 kilometers or so, a couple hundred kilometers of the United States border. It wouldn't be a huge area that they'd have to actually secure. And I don't think that the Canadian Armed Forces, with all due respect, would be capable of putting up much of a fight against something like the military might of the United States. When you look at the relative numbers, the United States is 10 times our population, but their military is far more than 10 times the size of our military. So, but I don't think that's anything realistic. Although, I mean, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but no one's even talking about that. So I think that covers off the main things that I wanted to cover this episode. Some of the interesting things that have come up. Had some good questions from a couple individuals, so we appreciate those. So this is your chance to get any last questions in if there's anything you want to ask me. Otherwise, hold on to it, I guess, until next month's live episode. I see Bill Davies, the mug purchaser, has joined us. So thank you, Bill. Yeah, it sounds like Facebook is always hiding our posts. I don't know the ins and outs of how Facebook works. I know a lot of people have suggested that we're being shadow banned. Although, as I was discussing with Richard, there's a lot of people who aren't shadow banned that are a lot more controversial than me. Like, just thinking of some people we've had as guests, like Greg Wycliffe. We had back in, I guess, was it January, December? I mean, he's got way more subscribers than we do. So I don't know about the shadow banning thing, but please do subscribe if you like watching our videos. That does help a lot. So I guess if there's no more questions, I've been burning the candle at both ends with a lot of court appearances lately. So I guess we'll call it a show here. So as always, this video is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, call a lawyer. My contact information, phone number, and website are on the banner below. So because you need to speak to a real life lawyer, share the specifics of your case to get some real legal advice, not just what's in this in a video like this. And if you have show topics you'd like to see us cover, please send an email to the email address listed below. don'ttalktv@protonmail.com. Also send an email there if you're interested in a mug. That Richard will get you taken care of. And if you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and following us on social media.